Did you know that doing a single exercise for 1 minute a day can help you regain your memory? It sounds impossible, I know, but I speak from my own experience. I am over 70 years old, and for a long time I thought my memory was simply failing because of age. I forgot names, where I left the keys, and more than once I fell silent in the middle of a sentence, not knowing how to finish it. I felt frustrated. I even came to think I was beginning to lose myself. But then I discovered something that changed everything. It was not a magic pill, nor an expensive treatment, nor hours of complicated brain games. It was something much simpler, a small daily habit, an exercise that takes barely 1 minute, and that, if you do it consistently, can reactivate your mind, your concentration, and help you remember things you thought you had lost forever. Today, I want to share with you exactly what that exercise is. But not only that, I also want to tell you why it works, what changes it produces in the brain, and how you too can start strengthening your memory at any age, even if you are already past 80. This is not theory. It is something I have lived. And if I could notice the change in only a few days, you can do it too. So if you are tired of forgetting important things, if you feel your mind is not as agile as before, stay with me to the end. It may be that this small daily minute becomes one of the most powerful moments of your day. And before we continue, I want to ask you something very simple. Tell me in the comments how old you are and where you are watching me from. I would love to know who is fighting for their memory, who still has that spark of curiosity and the strength to recover what seems lost. Why do we lose memory with age? As the years go by, it is normal to notice certain lapses. We do not remember where we left the keys. We enter a room and forget why we did so, or the name of someone we have known all our lives does not come to mind. And that can worry us. But understanding why it happens is the first step to improving. In our brain, there is a structure called the hippocampus. It is a sort of operations center where memories, orientation, and recent memory are managed. With age, the hippocampus, like many other organs in the body, begins to shrink slowly. This means that the connections between our neurons grow weaker or are lost more easily. It is not a disease. It is part of natural aging. But there is something important you should know. The speed at which this occurs is not written in stone. It can be slowed and even improved. One of the greatest enemies of memory is prolonged stress. When we live tense or anxious, the brain releases a hormone called cortisol, which over time can damage the cells of the hippocampus. And if we add to that a lack of mental stimulation, poor sleep habits, and a diet low in nutrients, the decline accelerates. Routine also plays a role. Doing the same things every day without learning new ones causes the brain to enter automatic mode. It is like failing to exercise a muscle. Over time, it weakens. I will tell you something that marked me. Mary is 68 years old. One day she told me, with tears in her eyes, that she had started forgetting her grandchildren's names. At first, she took it with humor, but then she felt ashamed. She withdrew. She thought she was beginning to lose her identity. But what she did not know is that those lapses were the body's alarm, a signal to act, not a final sentence. And here is what matters. This happens to most people. You are not alone, and it is not irreversible. Memory is not lost all at once. It dims little by little, like a faint light that begins to flicker. But just as it dims, it can be lit again. With the right stimulus, the right exercise, and a small daily commitment, it is possible to regain mental agility, confidence, and even memories you thought had gone forever. And that is exactly what we will see in the next parts. You do not need years of training nor complex techniques. You only need to understand what your mind needs and give it that small daily nudge. Because the good news is this: your brain has not given up. It is just waiting for you to decide to activate it again, the power of the daily neuro awakening. Now that you know why we lose memory with age, let us talk about the most important thing: how we can wake it up again. Imagine your mind is like a garden. If you leave it untended, the plants dry up, the soil hardens, and the flowers disappear. But if each day you give it a bit of water, a bit of sun, and care for it lovingly, that garden blooms again. The same happens with your brain. Throughout life, the connections between our neurons change. Some grow weaker, others disappear. But new connections can also be created. This is called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to adapt, reorganize, and learn, even after 70, 80, or 90 years. Yes, even at advanced ages. And it is not a myth. It is proven by science. But there is something important. The brain needs stimulus. It needs you to wake it up. This is where the concept of the daily neuro-awakening comes in. And no, it is not about studying mathematics or solving complex problems. It is about doing a single exercise for 1 minute each day. An exercise that activates your senses, your coordination, your concentration, and that reminds your brain that it is still alive, still in motion. I will tell you something that impressed me greatly. At a rehabilitation center in Madrid, a group of older adults with mild cognitive impairment began doing a very simple daily exercise. It took only 1 minute. It consisted of moving the hands in a cross pattern, combining breathing and attention. At first, some did it clumsily, others laughed, others felt frustrated. But after 3 weeks, something began to change. People who forgot what they had eaten for breakfast began remembering what clothes they had worn the day before. One woman remembered the name of her primary school teacher. A man was finally able to learn his grandson's hospital room number, all from 1 minute a day, nothing more. And the most beautiful thing is that you do not need to be perfect. You only need to do it every day, like when you brush your teeth or have your morning coffee. It is that small ritual that wakes something inside you. That is why we call it neuro-awakening, because you do not need hours of mental exercises, only consistency. The secret lies in repetition, in attention, in that brief moment when you decide your mind deserves that care, that respect, that act of self-love. The exercise, what exactly does it involve? The moment you were waiting for has arrived. This is the 1 minute exercise that so many older people are using every day to regain mental agility, improve memory, and feel more awake. And you need nothing more than your own body and a small space where you can move freely. The first thing you should know is that this exercise is based on something called cross-activation. What does that mean? It means we will use the right side of the body with the left side of the brain, and vice versa. This crossing stimulates both hemispheres of the brain at the same time, creating new connections between areas that often no longer activate in day-to-day life. So here it is, step 1. Starting posture. Stand with your feet shoulder-width apart. If you cannot stand, you can do it seated, but keep your back straight. Step 2. Cross movement. Bring your right hand toward your left knee, lifting the leg. Touch them in the air as you exhale gently. Then return to the starting position and do the same with the other hand and knee, left hand to right knee. Do this movement alternately, over and over, for 1 minute. If you can, do it with your eyes closed. If you do not feel safe, you can do it with your eyes open at first, and then try closing them. Step 3. Breathing. Accompany each cross with controlled breathing. When you bring the hand to the knee, exhale through the nose or mouth. When you return to the center position, inhale gently. Breathing this way helps the brain receive more oxygen, which improves concentration and calms the nervous system. Step 4. Visualization. While you do the movements, mentally picture a word, an image, or even your own name. You can repeat in your mind something like, I am awake, I am present, or simply visualize the face of a loved one. This activates conscious attention and makes the exercise not only physical, but also neurological and emotional. Do this exercise for only 1 minute a day, no more, just 1 minute. And although it seems simple, it is very powerful. Why? Because it activates both hemispheres of the brain, which improves communication between your neurons. It stimulates motor coordination, which often weakens with age. And above all, it trains mindful focus, that ability to pay attention to what you are doing in this moment without distractions. In addition, by including breathing and visualization, you are also exercising your emotional system. It is like a small mental reset every morning. This exercise is like turning on a lamp inside you, a lamp that helps you see more clearly, remember better, and start the day with an awake mind. How and when to practice it for the best results. You already know what the exercise is. Now let us see how and when to do it so your brain gets the most out of it and you can feel the results sooner than you imagine. Ideally, practice it at 2 key times of day. First thing in the morning. When you wake up, your brain is still coming out of deep rest. It is the best time to activate it gently, without stress. This exercise serves as a kind of mental ignition, like when you start a car and give it a few seconds for the engine to find its rhythm. Second, after a nap or a moment of mental fatigue. Many older adults feel confusion or disorientation after sleeping a while in the afternoon. Doing the exercise right when you get up helps you clear your head, center yourself, and return to the present with more clarity. Now then, when you practice it, find a quiet place without distractions. Turn off the television, silence the phone, and give yourself that minute as a small gift. You do not need music or company, only your body, your mind, and your attention. Posture matters too. If you are standing, keep your back straight, your legs slightly apart, and your shoulders relaxed. If you do it seated, sit on the edge of the chair with your feet firmly on the floor. And here is a mini routine you can repeat every day. 1. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. 2. Do the cross-activation exercise for 1 minute with slow breathing. 3. When you finish, repeat a short affirmation in your mind. Something brief like, "My mind is awake," or "I remember clearly," or even something as simple as, "I am present." Do not underestimate the power of words. What you repeat, you believe, and what you believe, you build. I want to tell you the case of Mr. William. He is 76 years old. He is a calm man, the kind who always carries a small notebook to write everything down because he fears forgetting. For years, his wife wrote the grocery list because he, however much he tried, never managed to remember it completely. One day, he decided to try this exercise. It seemed too simple, but he did it anyway. Every morning, after brushing his teeth, he took a deep breath, did the cross movements, and repeated, "I am focused. My memory works well." 3 weeks went by, and one morning, his wife asked whether he wanted the list as always. Mr. William looked at her and said, "No need. Today I know it." And so it was. He bought everything without forgetting a single item. It was not magic. It was consistency. It was attention. It was 1 minute a day with intention. And that is what you can achieve too. Because it is not about having the best memory in the world, but about recovering that confidence we sometimes feel we have lost. What happens in your brain when you do it? While you do this simple 1-minute exercise, something amazing happens inside your head. You do not see it. You do not feel it immediately, but it is happening. Your brain switches on, literally. When you cross your hands and touch the opposite knee, you are activating both brain hemispheres at the same time. That is, you are asking the left side and the right side to work together, something we tend to do less and less with the years. This kind of movement stimulates several key areas of the brain. First, the cerebellum, which is in charge of balance, coordination, and fine movements. Although many people think the cerebellum only serves to move well, in reality, it also has a fundamental role in the body's memory. That is why, when you activate it, you are telling the body, "Attention, get ready. We are going to function better." Then there are the frontal lobes, located behind the forehead. These areas are responsible for logical thinking, concentration, and decision-making. When they are stimulated, your capacity to organize ideas, remember details, and stay focused increases. They are like the brain's conductors. And the reticular activating system also comes into play, a network of neurons that keeps you awake and attentive. It is like a switch that decides when the brain should be in alert mode. This system is crucial for learning, because if you are not mentally awake, nothing you see or hear truly gets recorded. And here is the curious part. This 1-minute exercise has an effect we might call a brain alarm clock. You do it, and your mind activates. That is why we say, this exercise wakes the brain up before asking it to remember. It is like preparing the ground before sowing. You cannot plant a seed in dry soil and expect it to grow. First, you have to loosen the soil, water it, prepare it. This minute of activation does exactly that. It prepares your mind to function better for the rest of the day. Now you may be wondering, wouldn't it be better to do crosswords, play chess, or solve Sudokus? The answer is, they all help. But there is a big difference. Mind games work one part of the brain, mainly logic or visual memory. But this cross-activation exercise involves the whole body, and in doing so, more brain areas are stimulated at the same time. In addition, it is immediate. You do not need pencil, paper, or prep. You can do it at home, on waking, without depending on anything external. And that makes it powerful. In fact, universities like Stanford, Harvard, and Cambridge have studied similar practices. They have shown that physical exercises with cross-coordination improve cognitive performance, even in people over 80. Because the brain, even as it ages, never stops learning. And when you invite it to wake up each day with a small gesture, it responds. It starts to reconnect, to remember, to recover, to live. Other versions of the exercise to vary the routine. One of the keys to keeping the brain awake is variety. When you always do exactly the same thing, the brain gets used to it and relaxes. But when you introduce small changes, you force your mind to pay attention. And that is precisely what we want, to keep it in a learning state. That is why I will now show you 4 different versions of the exercise you already know. They all follow the same principle. Activate your body and mind for 1 minute a day, but with slight variations that wake different brain areas. 1. Exercise with spoken number sequence. Do the same cross movement of hand to opposite knee, but this time say a number out loud when you touch the knee. Start from 1 and go up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do it while continuing to alternate right with left. When you feel comfortable, you can increase the difficulty. For example, count by twos. 2, 4, 6, 8. This small change forces your brain to coordinate body, voice, and thought at the same time. It is a gentle but powerful challenge. 2. Version with names of people or objects. Instead of numbers, you can say the names of your loved ones. For example, Louis, Carmen, James, Julia. Or you can say objects in your home. Chair, window, plate, towel. The goal here is to exercise word memory. You can always repeat the same ones or invent a new list each day. If one day it is hard to recall a name, do not get frustrated. That moment is the most valuable, because right then, the brain is working to find the answer. That is exactly what we are looking for. 3. Partner exercise or in front of a mirror. Another way to make it more interesting is to invite someone else. It can be your partner, a friend, or even a grandchild. You stand face to face and do the cross movements at the same rhythm, as if you were a mirror. This not only strengthens coordination, it also adds a social and emotional component, which is just as important for the brain. If you are alone, you can do it in front of a mirror. Watching yourself helps you correct posture and also generates a special kind of focus, being present and seeing yourself in motion. 4. Version for people with limited mobility. If for some reason you cannot move your legs or stand up, do not worry. The exercise can be adapted easily. Do the same movements, but only with arms and hands. Bring the right hand to the left shoulder, then the left to the right shoulder. Alternate. Another option, bring the right hand to the left ear and vice versa. You can even simply raise your arms, crossing them in the air. The movement does not have to be perfect nor large. What matters is that there is crossing, intention, and breathing. And if there is pain or fatigue, do it more gently or for 30 seconds. What matters is keeping the daily habit, not perfection. Changing the routine from time to time not only prevents boredom, it also helps more areas of the brain to activate, and that strengthens memory, mental agility, and self-esteem. Because every day you decide to move, think, and breathe mindfully, you are building a stronger brain, more awake, more you. In the next part, I will give you a few tips to maintain this habit over time and not leave it forgotten like so many other things we try one day and never do again. Because real change does not come from doing something once, but from repeating it lovingly every day. Add-ons that boost the exercise. You're already doing your minute of neuro awakening each day. But what if you could go a step further? What if you could multiply the benefits simply by adjusting a few things in your daily routine. The good news is that you can. There are simple habits that act like fertilizer for that mental garden we talked about earlier. Small changes that make your memory bloom even faster. Let us see them. 1. Sleep well and eat good fats. Your brain repairs itself while you sleep. Just as the body needs rest, the mind does too. Sleeping between 7 and 8 hours each night allows the brain to eliminate toxins, consolidate memories, and organize what it learned during the day. So do not underestimate the power of a good night's sleep. If you do not rest well, the mental exercise you do during the day loses impact. And beyond sleep, there is one kind of food your memory loves: good fats. Omega-3 fatty acids, found in foods like salmon, walnuts, chia seeds, or olive oil, nourish the brain. They help keep neuron membranes flexible, which improves communication between them. Think about it. 1 tablespoon of good oil or a handful of walnuts a day can help you think more clearly. 2. Avoid constant multitasking. Today we are used to doing many things at once. We listen to the radio while cooking, talk on the phone while walking, or watch television while looking at the cell phone. But for the brain, that is not healthy. In reality, multitasking exhausts memory. When you try to do many things at the same time, none of them is recorded fully. That is why, instead of remembering more, you remember less. The best gift you can give your mind is to do one thing at a time, calmly, with attention, whether reading, walking, talking, or eating. When you focus on a single task, you are telling your brain, this is important, store it well. 3. Stimulate the senses. Did you know that smelling a flower or listening to a song can help you remember better? The senses are intimately connected with memory. That is why one way to boost your brain is to stimulate your senses daily. Here are a few simple ideas. Light a candle with a lavender or lemon scent. Listen to a song that reminds you of your youth. Look at an old photograph and describe it out loud. Touch different fabrics with your eyes closed. Walk barefoot over different surfaces, like grass or carpet. Each of these experiences activates different areas of the brain, creating new connections. It is like giving your memory more pathways to find what it seeks. 4. Visual memory or association techniques. There are simple tricks that help a lot when you need to remember something. For example, if you want to remember the name of someone called Rose, imagine a red rose above her head. Or if you need to remember a list of objects, visualize them as if they were part of an absurd story. The more amusing or strange, the better. These techniques work because the brain loves images. The more visual the memory, the easier it will be to access it. You do not need to memorize books. Just use a bit of imagination. Each of these add-ons is like water, sun, or compost for that mental garden you are tending. You do not have to do everything at once. Start with one, then another, and little by little, you will see how not only your memory improves, but also your mood, your clarity, and your desire to keep learning. Real stories of transformation. Up to now, you know the exercise, its scientific basis, how to do it, when, and how to complement it. But now it is time to talk about what matters most, real life. Because you can read theories, look at studies, or follow routines. But what truly touches the heart is seeing how other people, like you, have put it into practice and have recovered much more than memory. They have recovered confidence, joy, and the desire to live with clarity. Today, I want to share 3 real stories with you. 3 older people who one day said, I do not want to live forgetting everything anymore, and decided to act. Case 1. Helen, 74 years old, from Seville. Helen was a primary school teacher. For years she taught with passion, with energy, with tenderness. But after retiring, she began to notice she forgot the names of her former students, and even of some neighbors she talked to every day. It hurt me not to remember the name of the lady on the 3rd floor, whom I had talked to for 20 years. I felt disconnected. It was her granddaughter who showed her the cross-activation exercise. At first she laughed. Is this going to help me remember names? But she did it. Every morning, along with an affirmation. My mind is awake and clear. 3 weeks went by, and one day, seeing her neighbor on the stairs, her name came back to mind as if it had never left. Rose. How are you, Rose? Helen not only regained memory, she also regained confidence. She went back to reading, writing letters, and making calls without fear of going blank. Case 2. Emmanuel, 82 years old, from Bogota. Emmanuel had always been an active man. He walked, did mental arithmetic, played with his grandchildren. But over time, he began having gaps. He forgot which street one of his children lived on, or whether he had turned off the gas. I felt clumsy, as if everything were foggy, he said. He started doing the exercise every afternoon after his nap. 1 minute, nothing more. Right hand, left knee, left hand, right knee, and a phrase, I am present, I am alert. After a few days, he noticed something curious. He remembered the way to the supermarket better, and he no longer needed to repeat what he was told 3 times to retain it. But the most moving moment was one afternoon when, unexpectedly, he remembered the name of his childhood dog, Toby. He had not thought of him in decades, and that day, eyes shining, he said, "It is as if my memory were giving me back little pieces of my life." Case 3. Martha, 69 years old, from Buenos Aires. Martha had never had a good memory, or at least that is what she believed. She always said, I am scatterbrained, forgetful. And over the years, that idea grew stronger. One day she heard, sometimes it is not a lack of memory, it is an excess of distractions or fatigue. That sentence changed her perspective. It was not that her mind was broken, it was that she had never learned to care for it. She began practicing the exercise, but she also did something else. She stopped using her phone during breakfast and instead did the minute of activation while looking out the window. Within a few weeks, she noticed she remembered birthdays, phone numbers, and even the previous night's dreams better. But the most beautiful thing was that she began to say proudly, I have a good memory. Because what changed in Martha was not only her mind, it was her mindset. She stopped seeing herself as forgetful and began to recognize herself as capable. These stories are real, and there are thousands more. Because every person who dares to care a little, to move a little, to believe a little more in themselves, begins a new path. And you, who are here, watching this video to the end, can have your own story too. Because it is never too late to reconnect with your memory, with your clarity, and with yourself. How to turn this exercise into a lifelong habit. Now that you know the exercise, its science, and the real stories that support it, what matters most is sustaining it over time. Because memory is not cared for with a single attempt. It is strengthened with love, with consistency, with presence. That is why I want to give you a few simple strategies so this minute of activation becomes part of your life, forever. 1. Create a visual cue. The brain needs reminders. So the first key is to place a visible cue somewhere you see every day. It can be a note on the bathroom mirror that says, activate your mind, or a paper on the refrigerator door with an arrow that says, have you done your minute today? You can even set an alarm on your phone with a message that says, it is your moment. Breathe, move, remember. It does not have to be perfect. It only has to be present. Because memory is also trained with small, repeated gestures. 2. Link it to a habit you already have. One secret to creating a new habit is pairing it with an old one, something you already do every day without thinking. For example, after brushing your teeth, do your minute of activation. Right before breakfast, breathe deeply and do it. Or after turning off your nap alarm, stand up, move your body, activate your mind. When a new habit rests on one already established, it becomes more natural, easier, more yours. 3. Recognize it as a ritual, not an obligation. This minute is not a task. It is not one more thing you have to do. It is a gift, a small moment of care for you, for your brain, for your well-being. Do it calmly, with soft music if you like, with a nice phrase, with a smile. Because you are not doing a simple exercise, you are honoring your story, your capacity to learn, your desire to remember. And that is a reason to be proud. Over time, you will see that you will not only remember more, you will also feel more awake, more present, more you. And now, we have reached the end. I want to finish this video with a sentence that accompanies me every day. 1 minute a day can give you back years of memories. A single minute. That is the power you have in your hands. 1 minute of breathing, of cross movement, of intention, can open your mind's doors in ways you did not imagine. Perhaps today you will not see big results, perhaps tomorrow neither. But if you keep going, in a few weeks you will be surprised to find yourself remembering names, moments, ideas that you thought were lost. Because the brain is generous, you only have to speak to it with consistency and tenderness. And if you have made it this far, I want to thank you. Thank you for giving yourself this time. Thank you for taking care of yourself. Thank you for believing that, whatever your age, your mind deserves attention, care, and a bit of love. And now, to close this moment together, I want to invite you to leave me a comment. Tell me how old you are and where you are watching this from. I want to know who is activating their memory with me each day. I want to feel that we are not alone on this path, because it is not only about exercising the body or the mind, it is about feeling accompanied, inspired, alive. So tomorrow, when you wake up, breathe, move your body, say out loud, I am present, I am alert, I am ready to remember, and do your minute. Your memory will thank you for it. See you very soon.